Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I can make a very short speech today, Madam Deputy Speaker, because my right honourable friend, the Shadow Chancellor, in his brilliant intervention at the beginning, has set it all out so clearly. And both these Opposition Day debates today, there's a common theme across them. One of those common themes is that the government has lost control of expenditure. And the second theme, which I want to develop very briefly, is that the government, the executive, have failed to listen with appropriate care to what people in this House have said. And on the first of these points, my right honourable friend from Salisbury put it very well in his eloquent intervention just a few minutes ago. It is to work out how to fix last week's fiasco with the welfare bill. Far from saving money, this is virtually now another spending measure. And it's important to remember that the former Chancellor, my right honourable friend who intervened, set out very clearly in the general election and since that the Tories would, had we been successful in winning the last election, reduce the number of working-age welfare recipients to pre-COVID levels, thus saving £49 billion by the end of this Parliament. And the reason I focus, Madam Deputy Speaker, on this welfare issue is because it is the welfare expenditure that the government has got to get to grips with and has failed to learn the lessons of the past. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, I was a very junior welfare minister in what was then the Department for Social Security between 1995 and 1997, and I learnt three very important lessons which this government would do well to consider. And on all three of these points, welfare reform is extremely difficult. First of all, the first of these key messages is that you cannot take away from poor people benefits that they are already receiving. And I think I'm right in saying that no Conservative government has ever reduced disability benefits in payment. But the party opposite did not absorb this vital lesson, and that is why they got into so much trouble last week. The second lesson is that if you want to reduce the benefits bill, there are only really two ways of doing it. The first of those is to freeze the level of benefits. That has been done in the past, and it is a way that does not fall into the trap the government fell into last week. And the third way of doing it is to narrow the gateways into those benefits for future recipients. And I urge the government to absorb these three important lessons, because they will have to return to the issue of welfare expenditure if they are to make any progress at all on the economy. Now, the second point I wanted to make was in huge praise for the Labour rebellion on its backbenchers last week, who have hopefully taught the executive a most useful lesson. And it is to listen to backbenchers with respect and close attention. Now, as a former Chief Whip, Madam Deputy Speaker, of course I deprecate rebellions unless I'm involved in them myself. But I say this to the opposition backbenchers: it usually takes years for the executive to get into the habit of treating their backbenchers with contempt and derision, as unelected Downing Street special advisors strut up and down Whitehall. But this executive, this government, have managed to accomplish this extraordinarily quickly. And they have now learned the hard way not to treat their backbenchers and elected members with so little respect. I give way to the honourable gentleman.
I thank the right honourable member for giving way. Since working at Oxfam and campaigning for tax justice, I've admired his work. And I think that we're the Conservative Party to listen to him, to the honourable member for Salisbury and the honourable member for Wetherby and Easingwold. I think it could find its way back to a centrist position, which would be for benefit of our country. But would he acknowledge that this government did face a difficult inheritance? Would he also acknowledge that in the time since we came to power, we are facing a changed world with tariffs, trade wars, sluggish global growth, rising authoritarianism, democratic backsliding, and as a result, it is a harder job for this government? Would he acknowledge that so that we can then start to think about how we take forward shared improvements?
So the honourable gentleman brings me elegantly to my final point on this, which is having praised and encouraged Labour backbenchers to speak out. My one ask of them is that they will now stand up for their election pledge, clearly set out in their manifesto, to restore the 0.7 figure on development spending. And what I ask the government to do, the government backbenchers to do, is to show the same zeal and enthusiasm to bring back the 0.7, which inexplicably, astonishingly, their Prime Minister has cut from 0.5, which, alas, they inherited it from us, down to 0.3. This is already causing massive difficulties, which he, particularly with his background in Oxfam, will be fully aware of. And when the House comes back in September, I urge him, particularly with his experience, to join with others in saying to the Executive, we will not put up with this. We said in our election manifesto that we would restore the 0.7, and in the same way that we have shown the Executive, the front bench, that they cannot proceed in the way that they planned with welfare, they cannot proceed either in the way they planned with development spending. And I urge the Labour backbenchers to ensure this rethink takes place in the autumn, when the folly of what has happened will be even clearer.